Good morning. I hope the morning is treating you really very well. Thank you, Deblina, for passing me on this session now and calling me here for this webinar to meet young people as I see. I'm so happy that I'm having young people to learn out corporate etiquettes today. Now, before we start corporate etiquettes, let me have some prerequisites for you. I would want all of you to have two set of papers. One, having written queries. The other, having written the best takeaways. Yeah, so if you're having a book, the left side of the page should mention all of your queries as we go through the entire session. And second, the right side of the page should be the best takeaways of the presentation. Now, since we are all here to learn corporate etiquettes, first thing is to understand what is etiquettes and then why corporate etiquettes. There are social etiquettes, there are other etiquettes. Why corporate etiquettes? Now to start with, so there's on your screen a messy desktop. You see a messy desktop there? And now there's this clean desktop. Which one would you like? So whenever I say I ask a question, you would just write it down, scratch it up on the rough pad, the notepad that you have. So which one would you like? Obviously a cleaner desktop, right? Now, whenever you go for movies, when you're concentrating on the movies, there's a suspense scene coming up, it's a thriller movie, or maybe it's a fun movie. You're so much concentrating on a movie, and then you find such a neighbor whose phone is constantly ringing, disturbing you, distracting you, or he's talking loud over the phone and disturbing you, and that's the point when you're so much into the suspense of the movie. Or say, for example, you're attending a funeral, and when everyone is mournful and there's this gentleman who takes up a call and starts talking, this is something really distracting and plus not expected out of the situation that they are into. Now let's see if you go out and buy a car. What would you prefer? And it's not just about a car. Whatever you go on and buy, what would you opt for? Wouldn't you opt for a good-looking thing, a good-looking car, a good-looking product, a good service, something that is presentable? So here's what we define corporate etiquettes as. Everyone wants either a clean, a presentable thing, a good-looking thing, product, service, or something that matches to the situation. As we saw in terms, if you just recall the past slide, it mentions that, like, if you are interested or if you are focused towards something and there is some distracting point in the situation, whether it's a funeral, whether it's a movie, fun thing, entertainment thing. So if something goes out of the situation, the normalcy, then we come to define it, and that is called forming an etiquette. Now let's see, does that mean that we are working out of normalcy? Let's read this. Corporate etiquette. Is it not visible proper? It is, right? But then when we define it, which one is more presentable? The second one. So that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to define ourselves so that we are more presentable, right? So what is it about? There are so many gestures we can have. Anxious, happy, sad, frowning, thoughtfulness, or maybe if you're feeling sleepy, you're yawning. all those kinds of gestures you can have during the entire day. So then what is an etiquette? Etiquette is about choosing the right gesture as per the situation and the people around you. Just like in a funeral when you're attending, though we are not expecting someone to be as mournful as we are, but then we obviously want them to be calm as per the situation. So choosing the right gesture is about learning the etiquette. So the golden rule of corporate etiquette says, treat people around you the way you want yourself to be treated. So that means if you would want to have someone talk to you nicely, then you should give that to them. Talk to them nicely. Give them the right gestures if you want right gestures from them. But the platinum rule says, howsoever you want, but treat the people around you the way they want themselves to be treated, not you want yourself to be treated. That's the platinum rule. Now, from all the slides that we till now passed through, let's define business etiquette. It's about building strong relationships, not personal. It's just at workplace, at business, with your clients, with your customers, with your peers, your subordinates, such that you're providing them basic, comfortable and a secure environment, respecting their emotions, respecting their space, respecting their roles that they are into, right? So we are just trying to give them a socially comfortable and secure environment through a better verbal or a written communication or a gesture. So that is how we define business etiquette, that as per every situation, as per every group of people you're around, as per the area you work in, there is a particular gesture, there is a particular communication associated with it, and that is the etiquette defined as business etiquette, right? Now that we have defined business etiquette, you have made 2 pages at the start. So I would want you all, number 1, from the definition, any query that you would have, quickly, I would just say 2 minutes, any query you would have in defining business etiquette, and what is it that you actually got from business etiquette on the right side of the page. Okay, I believe you must have written. All of these points that you're writing, we would be having an interactive session at the end of my presentation. I would want you to type the best ones of them. I might just click on any person's name and that person might have to write down whatever takeaway, best takeaway he or she found, or the query that he or she has. Now, going to the next. We understand what is business etiquette by this definition, but then how is it useful? What would it change? Can you just mention one statement in your scrap note or your notepad, rough pad? What is that thing that would change by learning business etiquette? So let's see if it matches to what actually it gives you. Number 1, it exhibits your professionalism. So when you're at work, you need to exhibit a certain norm of professionalism. So how do we exhibit that? It is in form of these etiquettes that we exhibit. Number 2, it exhibits a polished image of you. Whether it's this work that you're doing right now, it's this current role that you're handling, or whether you go out, meet your customers, clients, whether you're dealing with your own people, everywhere you go today, whatever polished image of you you're exhibiting that carries for a longer time, for lifelong rather. The next thing that comes up is it instills the perception of trustworthiness in you. So basically, if you have a polished image, people have a kind of trust. First thing is obviously respect, and second is a trust that whatever work or role that you're into, you would be doing it the best way. Now, when we're dealing with business etiquettes, when we're learning these corporate etiquettes, so here it is bifurcated into two stages. One, the learning of your own self, the changing of your own self, dealing with your own self. And the second, learning etiquettes when you're dealing with others, communicating with others, the gestures you show to others. So it's the learning of corporate etiquettes is bifurcated into two wings, that is dealing with your own self and dealing with others. Plus, it is also divided into two types. One, initial perception, and second, sustained perception. What do you mean by initial perception? Initial perception is something that gives an immediate change in perception of the people. So, say for example, yesterday I wore a very funky, a very bright, a very, say for example, a printed shirt in office. And today I'm in linings, a very dull, very elegant, light blue shirt. And this change from yesterday to today, it's quite immediately visible. It is immediately perceived. Right? So some perceptions are immediately observed. So that is called initial perception. But there are certain things which change, the perception of which changes over time, and that is called sustained perception. What kind of example can we give for sustained perception? Something that is perceived or seen or observed by other people around you with change in time. If you could just wrap it up quickly. It would be, say for example, punctuality. Punctuality cannot be observed or perceived in a single day, right? It takes over time to be perceived. It's an overtime change that is perceived by people. So let's see in detail what is dealing with self, what is dealing with others in corporate etiquettes. Then let's see what is initial perception and what is sustained perception in detail. Now, when you're dealing with self, what are you working on? You're either working on the appearance, you're either working on the presence, you're either working your presence not just physically, but virtually as well as online. Now, on the page that you have made of query as the takeaway, the first thing that I want you to do is these three things that are mentioned. Just mention what you understand in one single statement on the query side from the appearance, the netiquette, and the presence. 2 minutes for that, please. Not 2 minutes, 1 minute for that, please. The question answer is all right. So it's quite understood, self-explanatory from the words itself. The appearance. The appearance is something how people see you. That is what they think about you. And what they think about you is how that would determine or that would drive how they would treat you. So the first thing that comes up to us when it is about appearance is about your dressing style. So whether it is a male dress code, whether it is a female dress code, What is preferred in corporate etiquettes is wearing blazers or jackets over shirts paired with trousers or skirts, right? And polished shoes. These are the basic things, both for men and as well as women. You can either pair up shirts as well, shirts with trousers, shirts with skirts. To make it more elegant, you can have blazers and jackets. Now, talking about females, we would require trimmed filed nails, neat trimmed hair. That doesn't mean you always have to tie up your hair, which is the normal tendency of corporate etiquettes, that you just have to have a ponytail, you just have to have a pumped hairstyle. No, you can always have your hair open. It just needs to be neatly defined at the back of your ears, or maybe in a way that it doesn't, it is not the center of attention while you're talking to somebody. It should be neatly defined. The second thing is non-glitter jewelry. What I've normally observed is the tendency of females to wear a lot of jewelry, whether it's earrings or whether it's a lot many bracelets or a lot many rings. In fact, one is enough to show that you're married, right? So a lot of glitter jewelry, or nowadays we have a trend of tattoos. So if you're trying for tattoos, try to wear something that keeps your tattoos concealed within yourself. Because you're in the office or you're meeting your clients, you don't want to have that image in front of them where you are concealing your tattoos, showing what is your, like say, tattoos of your moon sign, tattoos of whom you are married to, or things like that. Right? That's particularly for the females. Now, when we talk about males, belts, shoes, belts, socks, when we pair them, we try to keep the color same. We try to match them up, right? So the belt of the watch plus the belt at your waist plus the shoe plus the socks, either of the two or three need to be paired in the same color. Now, does that mean you need to buy a lot many of them? No. The best that goes is brown and black. For girls, it's also like they try to match the bag, the watch, and the shoes. And for girls, there's one more thing that's coming up in the trend, that's nude colors. Nude colors is the extreme light cream, extreme light peach, apart from brown and black. That goes with every formal dress. Okay? Now, coming to the perfume or cologne part of it. Yes, odor is to be avoided. The pungent smell after working for the entire day. You might have a meeting in the graveyard shift. By the time there's a pungent smell surrounded. Then you require a light perfume. You can always have a handy perfume along with you if you travel a lot, right? Now, this is something that might not be existing everywhere. Like girls might say that, okay, we are more of Indian dressing. We are more into the Indian dressing. We wear those Indian dresses. True. The same applies there if you're wearing Indian dresses. Let's put it this way. The colors should be really decent. The clothes should be ironed, right? They shouldn't be bright or attractive, because whenever you're conversing with someone, the attention of the conversation should not be your looks, but should be what you speak. What is the content of your thought, and not what is the content of what you wear or how you dress up. It should be elegant, it should be presentable, but it should not be attractive that the person sitting in front of you is more interested in knowing what brand of watch you wear and less interested in knowing what thought you bring on the table. No. Let's say something more about how you should appear. What are the professional colors in terms of the dresses you wear? Black, blue, brown, gray. All these colors are the ones which are best recommended. Always remember light and subtle colors which don't penetrate your eyes suddenly. They are the best ones to show professionalism. and they look the best in offices. Yeah, females shouldn't wear revealing clothes to work. Now let me put it very clear. Revealing doesn't mean short, sleeveless. No, it means that it should be comfortably loose, and it applies the same to males. It should be comfortably loose, comfortably tight, not extreme at both the ends. Let's see what color of handbag. We've already discussed that. The color of the handbag, what we would expect, should match either of your outfit accessories, either your watch, either your belt, either your shoe. Also, what gets trendy is piercing. You have like your the normal Indian culture has this nose piercing thing, and I would say extreme ear piercing is not advisable. One. Plus, don't wear shoes that make noise while walking. That's really irritating for all the people sitting around you. While you walk, you enter the office, or you're going for a meeting, or maybe say for an interview. Do not wear shoes that make noise, because you never know what kind of flooring. It's not always a carpet, right? So make sure that your shoes, though maybe pointed heels, or though maybe a good sole, or comfortable, or whatever, but it should not make noise while walking, right? So, any queries if you have, just a 1 minute write down. On the left side of the note that you're making, if you could just write down, and the best takeaway on the right side of the page. So here we have almost done with the dressing thing, the appearance thing. The second thing was the presence. So what do you mean by the presence? The way you appear is fine, but the way you carry the space around you also matters. So people evaluate you before you even speak. And based on what? Based on the aura or the space around you that you carry, it speaks louder than what you actually speak. So what does that mean? It talks about your postures. The corporate etiquette has the basics of corporate etiquette is about dressing, one, grooming, dressing and grooming, and second is your postures while you're in office. So let's say, as we saw, it's about choosing the right gestures in the second slide, whether you would want to frown, whether you're feeling sad or anxious or maybe sleepy, but what kind of a face do you expect your colleagues to carry when you are with them? The same is what they would expect out of you. So the face that you should carry is always with a glow and a smile. I'm not mentioning a laugh over here. I'm mentioning a smile, a polite smile on your face without frowns. Second, bitten lips. Many of the people have that habit. I don't know, I should call it a bad habit, but yes, a habit of biting their lips when they are free. Whether you are with anybody or you're not with anybody, you're sitting beside people, or maybe you're sitting in a cabin with a transparent glass window, a transparent glass door. You're being observed. You have to behave in an office in a way that you are being observed by people, though you're not directly communicating with them. So biting lips, or having that habit of bitten lips, or arched eyebrows while you're talking to somebody. So suppose say you're extremely surprised or disappointed or angry or frightful. Say for example, you are supposed to give a presentation and you're extremely frightened. but that shouldn't come up on your face. Have a smile. That smile will automatically give you a glow. Give up that frown. Give up that bitten lips. Give up that disappointment, shock, and surprising and anger and fear look on your, especially on your eyebrows. That's the first thing that changes its shape, right, on your face. So make sure you have a check on them, right? Because your face speaks what lies inside your mind. Not a bit more, not a bit less. Your face exactly speaks your fear, your disappointment, your shock. Your face speaks. So try to have a bit of glow and smile mask on your face. Let's go on to the next, your eyes. When you are communicating with people, okay, whether it's a one-to-one meeting, whether you're talking to public, say for example 25 people at a time, or maybe you're talking to somebody on online, say on a Skype, say for example, or on a webcam, on a video call. So eyes, a polite eye connect shows interest. An extreme eye connect, it takes you in the other direction. Let me clarify that also. An extreme eye connect takes it in the other direction. A polite eye connect, okay, a polite eye connect is something like you look at that person into the eye, have a change of sight to left, right, again look at the same person. That is called a polite eye connect. This kind of polite eye connect shows that you're interested in talking on the topic that you're discussing with your maybe customer, client, or your subordinates, or your bosses, or people working under you. It also creates a kind of confidence. It also creates a kind of respect and trust in the speaker as well as the audience. Then coming to how should you stand while you are communicating with people. Always remember you should have your back straight, the chin line straight. Speaking to somebody and you're just looking at your shoes, or maybe his shoes whom you're speaking to, right? Or you're busy fidgeting your hands, your fingers, your nails, looking down on your hands while you're talking to somebody. No. Stand straight with your back straight, with the chin line straight, with almost 4 to 8 inches feet apart. Especially it is okay if it extends a bit more inches for guys, but for females, for women, it is expected only 4 to 8 inches apart. The feet I'm talking about. And you should always face the listener or the speaker. Now, leaning towards the speaker or someone you're talking to, it indicates interest. But here again, I would like to put a check. Putting a check means do not lean towards someone so much. Like say, for example, you're standing and someone is sitting and you're having a conversation. I wouldn't want you to take leaning towards someone as indicating interest, but it would not indicate a genuine interest. So if someone is sitting in front of you and you're standing, I wouldn't want to say leaning towards that person as indicating interest. That would not be called a perfect corporate etiquette. Do not lean when someone is sitting in front of you and you are standing. Now, leaning away, again, it indicates a desire to depart from the topic that you are discussing. It shows that you are wanting to disconnect on the topic you're discussing. The same applies to the sitting etiquette. You have to sit straight with no leaning, okay, and feet resting flat on the floor, knees together, palms resting on your lap. All right. Now, for males, preferred can be one leg crossing on the other. With females, that is less preferred. I wouldn't say not preferred, but it would be less preferred. Knees together, joined, feet flat on the floor, your palms resting on the lap. With guys, the same thing, but they have the liberty to cross their legs one on top of the other. Now let's see what your hands should do when you're interacting with people. What kind of posture your hands should have? One, whenever you're talking to people, it is a normal tendency that your hands they start working to express the gestures in your conversations, but excessive use of hands is a distraction. So you should have a check on the amount of usage of hands that you do in the conversations that you have. Again, as I said, when you're standing or when you're sitting or when you're communicating with people, nail biting, say for example, if it's frightful or if it's anxiousness or if it's curiosity or anything else, nail biting, avoid it. Fidgeting, doodling, and finger pointing. Do not point out fingers. Do not play with your hands and fingers or your nails. Do not go on play with the pen that is on the table, or maybe the pen, bottle, water, or the coffee cup. Do not distract from the topic by doing all this. Then, what is the best thing? If we shouldn't be doing all these things, what is the best thing? Crossed arms, placing hands in the pockets. Okay, crossed arms, to some extent, it is advisable. But yes, only if you are in the authority figure, then it is advisable, crossed arms. Placing hands in the pockets, only if you have a bit of friendliness attached to the corporate or at the workplace, you are with the people where certain friendliness is attached. Placing hands in the pocket is advisable. Otherwise, it shows again authority, right? Slouching or maybe showing a laid-back attitude, it shows dismissal or uneasiness, right? So this is what speaks about postures when we talk about the presence around you. Now, when we are talking about the presence, one more thing that comes is the personal space and distance. Now, what do we talk when it's about space? How much close you should be when you're talking to somebody? It shouldn't be too close, because it seems that you're pushing yourself on that person. You're trying to be either aggressive or you're trying to be extremely pushy towards that person. I hope you understand what is being pushy, or you're imposing yourself on that person. Too far, it shows again a disinterest in the discussion. So what are the standard distance norms? When you're intimate, which is normally not the case at office, let me put it very clear, intimate, which is normally not the case at office, it's 0 to 18 inches. Personal, that is, say for example, at work when you're with colleagues, when you're with subordinates, or you are having a general discussion off the track, maybe a discussion, it would be somewhere between 18 inches to 4 feet. A social distance is when you're having a meeting sort of a thing, or a discussion would a presentation sort of a thing, 4 to 12 feet. A public speech where you are addressing a lot many people at the same time, a group of people where you're the speaker, say, then a distance from the audience should be somewhere 12 to 25 feet or maybe more. Next, when we are talking about, again, the presence, what else comes up into presence? Number one, your habits. So habits, few people have habits of drinking at work. Say they think that the working hours are over and they prefer drinking at work. Avoid doing that. Second, smoking in office premises. Avoid that, okay? Now, it's not just about you drinking or you smoking. You can avoid that. But then suppose, say, the people you're working with, they drink or they smoke. Then you should know how to handle them in a decent way and manage them to have them outside the office, smoking outside the office rather than inside the office. Now, when it comes to drinking and smoking, what I see majorly here, since I'm in Ahmedabad, what I see majorly here is people having, people at a good role, at a senior level. I see them having those pan masalas, gutkas, and all that stuff. That is not advisable in the office. If in case you're addicted, one, the first best thing that is suggested is to slowly and steadily come out of it, get rid of it. It is not at all acceptable as per the corporate etiquettes. But if it is a real addiction till you actually get rid of it, try it outside the office, just as we do it with smoking as well as drinking. Now, as we saw in the first slide, what kind of desk we like? We like a clean desk rather than a messy one. So what are the desk or workstation etiquettes? One, have a clean and organized workstation with a desktop clock or a task calendar. They are recommended. Maybe you can have a digital clock with a digital calendar, which also has a task defining calendar. Those things are recommended so that you are timely. Okay. Now, many people, especially if you see the background picture, there is a photo frame. Many people try to bring in photo frames. Many people try to bring in idols of their gods. Many people try to bring in, say, turtles to bring in luck. I've seen that in my own office. So all those things, they are better suited at home or in your personal space. And desktop or a workstation is your workplace, a defined place for you, but it's not actually your own personal space. So avoid personal photo frames, things like bringing in idols of god idols or images. People prefer calendars, not professional look calendars, but they prefer something like images of gods and then a small calendar at the bottom of it. No. You can obviously prefer some good quotes in a calendar instead of having those. No, it's nothing like you're spreading a wrong message, but that is not what is recommended, because we are not in favor of any particular one thing, right? One word or one, since we are globalizing. Coming to next, either you must be sitting in a fully partitioned cubicle, maybe a glass partition, maybe a partition, an opaque partition, a half partition or a full partition, but you never know how much voice goes to the other side of the wall, other side of the partition. If it is a glass partition, do not encourage peeping into someone else's desk, someone else's desktop. Avoid overhearing talks. Plus, check the pitch or the tone that you use while you're talking, even if you're talking over the phone with somebody or your client. Maybe you're taking a personal call. Watch that your pitch and tone is low enough that it doesn't reach the other side of the partition. Yes, avoid eating on your desk. If you do, ask housekeepers to clean the leftovers immediately. Now, many people might not be taking lunch on their desk, but yes, many do. If you're doing that, then make sure that it is clean. The housekeepers keep it clean. Then take care, as I said, take care of your tone and pitch while speaking. You never know who is on the other side of the wall. Then turn off your printer or your scanner, computer, lights, fans, everything when you leave for the day. It has nothing to show that you're presentable, but it is a normal etiquette expected out of a professional, that a person who believes in energy conservation, when he turns off his printer, scanner, computers, lights, everything when he leaves for the day. Right, so that's the normal etiquette. Now, since that we have talked about taking care of your tone and pitch while speaking, you never know who's on the other side of the wall, I would like to include one more thing. I've seen many people taking personal calls, going into the restroom and taking a personal call. Please avoid that. Again, you do not know how much of your voice comes out, who is on the other side of the wall. Avoid taking your calls inside the restroom. Go outside the office premises, take your calls, and then come back again. So avoid that habit. Next, again, we are talking still about the presence. We should completely understand that there has to be a boundary, whether it is personal or professional. You must be having a lot many breakthroughs as well as breakdowns in terms of your personal life. But you should avoid emotional outbursts in the office. If you had a very bad day at home, say for example, you shouldn't bring that into the office, or you shouldn't bring those personal calls in the office, or have those emotional outbursts. Say for example, you just shout on your subordinates because you had a bad day at home. No. You had a bad start at home and you're shouting. No. Or you just suddenly start crying. No. Avoid emotional outbursts. Don't groom yourself in public. This is especially for the males, because females, though they prefer grooming themselves, but they majorly go to the restroom and do it. Males always have a habit of grooming their hair all the time. While talking to somebody, even while interacting over the phone or while working, they groom their hair, they make up their shirts. No, that's not required as well as not preferred in public. As I said, you never know, though you're alone, you might be being observed. Then, be friendly with colleagues, but do not entertain flirtatious behavior. Being friendly is fine. Normally, we would prefer that friendly note is required in your conversations with people. Getting involved to an intimate level, that's not preferred. It is equally important for females as well as males. Please make a note, it is equally important for females as well as males that being on a friendly note in your conversation is actually required, but getting intimate or involved in that friendliness is not recommended. Yes, do not be a complainer. Yes, I know your boss had fired you. Maybe you did not have a peer who worked for you. You assigned some work to your subordinate and that person did not come back. Please do not complain. Be a solution provider. Do not be a complainer. And avoid office gossip. And this is something that not only is to be included in corporate etiquette, but it also affects your performance. Office gossip not only wastes your time, but it also wastes your energy, affects your work. So avoid office gossip, not just out of learning corporate etiquettes, but for a better performance. Now let's understand the netiquette, that is the net etiquette. This is something that's new, and this is something that is really, really important. The rest of the things you must have heard from people earlier while talking to them, or maybe other seminars, or maybe other slide shares, or maybe other documents. You must have read articles, you must have read news, you must have read online. But one thing that now is important, your online presence. So you need to define your online presence when it comes to a professional world. Now, avoid using personal interest sites or fun sites at workplace. There are offices where they have particular time slots where they are allowed to use personal social media sites. You can open your personal accounts and then you can surf the net for a while and then get back to work. But if not, otherwise, avoid using personal interest sites or fun sites at workplace. Try to conceal your personal space at work by avoiding such sites. Do not open illegal or banned sites at workplace. Now, why I mentioned this point was I was just referring YouTube for some presentation few days back for some videos, and I used the official ID of YouTube that we had created. So someone else must have used YouTube but just before I did, and there were certain sites that were there were certain videos that were open which were not good to see. So in this way, your image is going in the other direction, in the negative direction. if someone uses the same account, maybe if it's an official account, if uses the same account, what happens? It is hurting your image. So do not open illegal or banned sites at workplace. Do not open videos, presentations, or images, or any online forum that is not recommended for the workplace. Respect others' privacy. Do not enter or spy someone's social accounts if found open. Say, for example, you just went on to use someone's laptop for half an hour because your desktop isn't working, or there's some network connection problems, and you find some Facebook account or Twitter account open for the person's laptop you're using. Do not enter his or her privacy. Respect that privacy. I really understand the curiosity of knowing somebody when somebody is working with you, but respect others' privacy if you are actually willing to learn corporate etiquettes. Now, when you're sharing some information or photograph or contact details of your, say for example, seniors or your clients or your customers or your subordinates for any particular reason, even say for example official, take the consent of that person before sharing the information, before sharing the photographs, before sharing the contact details on an online forum. Before sharing it, say for example it's a professional site, LinkedIn. But if you're using someone else's contact details, you're sharing someone else's photograph or some project which belongs to your organization, take the consent before sharing it online. Also, when you are on a professional site or maybe any other, say for example, entertaining site, where you are sharing certain information about the company, say for example success stories of your team or success stories of your projects, whatever you are sharing, there must be comments, there must be reviews coming in, but avoid unwanted sarcasm when it's a professional share, because it might be misunderstood. Use appropriate language. Use appropriate emoticons while quoting someone on social media. You must be sharing some project with your team member names, and then you must be sharing some sarcasm. Avoid that. Next, never share what you haven't read or known. Something that you are sharing on social media, but you have never read about it. So shouldn't shares anything that you don't know about or you haven't read. Respect copyright. Take consent before using someone else's data from any online forum. If you're just giving a presentation, or maybe say for example making a website or blogging, anything you're using some information that has been created by someone else and has a copyright, take the consent. And avoid flaming. Avoid flaming says that use of capital letters, it shows aggression. When you use capital letters, just like using the color red when you are writing an email or you're sharing something on social media, when you use the color red or when you're using capital letters, it is considered to be a loud tone. It is considered to be a shout. It is considered to be an aggression, so avoid flaming. So we've completed now dealing with self, where we studied about various things on your appearance, on your presence, your habits, and then etiquettes. A quick rewind in your mind and just mention the best takeaway on the right side of your page from all these three things. The best takeaway. Even if it's one, fine. The best takeaway from all these three and the query on the left side. Just a minute there. I'm so sorry for this pop-up. So When you're dealing with yourself, you saw various aspects about your appearance, your presence, your habits, and the way you present yourself online. Now, when you're dealing with others, it's more about how you communicate with them either in person or virtually, or while you are with them, say in a one-to-one meeting, or maybe you're just eating with them, having lunch with them. So let's see what are the things that come up when you're dealing with others. Either you talk to them, interact with them via mail, or you interact with them via phone, or one-to-one meetings, or you're either having a lunch or a business meal with them. So let's understand one by one about them. Now, the first thing is about mails. The emails that you do to people, how that matters. So the first sentence of your mail determines the reaction I'm sorry again. Okay, so the first sentence of your mail determines the reaction of the reader to the rest of the message. So start well. So what does this mean? It simply means that if you're presentable, people would like to talk to you. That determines their reaction for the rest of the meeting. Similarly, in the case of an email, the subject line as well as the starting line of the mail body determines what will be the reaction of the reader to the rest of the message that you're writing. So it is really very important to start well. So how do we plan a message when you're dropping an email? So here, when we are talking about mail etiquettes, let me be very clear. We are not talking about the general mails that we keep giving, the come and go of the general emails. Mail etiquette is particularly for the emails that we send to customers, clients, or which has a professional value attached to it, right? So if you are asking somebody for the report submission, if you're asking a subordinate for a report submission, that is nothing to do with a mail etiquette, email etiquette. You need not plan your message to ask for a report from a subordinate or a peer. We are talking about something which is going to the customer, to the clients, to the bosses, a complete professional value email. Okay, so such emails need to be planned. So how do we plan? The plan has to have two things. One, the purpose. What is the purpose behind it? So purpose means whenever you're dropping an email, you should have in the back of your mind that after dropping that email, what kind of response or result you're expecting out of it. So your mail should be drafted in a way that you get the response you're expecting. Number two, how should you execute it? So in order to execute it, or in order to send the mail, first thing is that the right time to send? I have seen people working late hours, sending emails, professional emails I'm talking about, sending reports, say at 12:30 in the night, say for example 4 o'clock in the morning, or say 7 o'clock in the morning. So for executing a mail draft, is that the right time to send? Is it the right person to send? And does your email have all the apt information included in it so that you get the response or result you're expecting out of that email? So for this, you need to outline the message, open with a purpose. So if you're opening with a purpose, you need to have a clear subject line. Say, for example, you want to inquire about a car and its features, say, for example. And it is quite clear the subject line should start with what? Okay, just mention one word. What should be the subject line starting word? I'll give you one, but just you scrap it down. What should be the subject line starting word when you're inquiring for a car feature from a car distributor? Okay, let me just put my subject line if I'm inquiring for a car. The first word will be inquiry. Isn't that simple? Isn't that straight? The first word is inquiry. Then you can put a colon and then the car name, features. Simple. A clear subject line. Now I tell you what the mistakes that this subject line can have. One simple mistake. I want to inquire about so-and-so car rates and features. This is the subject line which I normally see when people sit and write down an email. No. A subject line needs to be apt, it needs to be concise, it needs to be short, it needs to have words that clearly indicate what you want instead of mentioning a sentence. Sentences are meant for the mail body, not for the subject line. Subject line needs to have clear indicating words. I want to inquire for so-and-so cars, features and rates can be mentioned in the mail body instead of mentioning that in the subject line. Then, opening paragraph that answers the what, why and when of the response. Now take the same example when you're inquiring for something. For suppose say some of your customers might be inquiring for your products. How clear they can be. Like, I'm so-and-so, I'm writing for so-and-so reason, I'm looking to buy, say for example, a car by so-and-so time, this is my so-and-so budget. Can I get features, rates and the discounts available? That is how we plan the paragraph, the opening, and here since it is a very short message, the entire paragraph. Now, in terms of a professional email, when you are drafting, say for example, what you learned in the webinar today. If you're drafting a mail on that and you're passing it on to your organization, what you learned. So you order your argument as per the strength, your data or your chronology. You have to prioritize what important things you learned first, the second point, the third point. Order your argument and always close your statement by giving regards for the time and response in advance. Say for example, you have asked for someone's opinion on the reports that you have made. Say for example, you've asked for an opinion from your boss for the reports you have made, you're supposed to submit or present the day after. Give regards while closing your mail, give regards by saying, I appreciate your time and response in advance. Or you can also mention, I would appreciate your opinion. Thanks for your time. So the message that you draft, the outline should be such, a clear and apt, concise, clearly indicating subject line, a very defined paragraph which mentions the what, why and when of the response. Order your argument as per the priority, as per the strength of the points that you have, and with the closing statement by giving regards. The same thing is described by the umbrella point theory. So it says that the umbrella point theory, it says that the purpose of the mail is the tip of the umbrella, which is supported by its main points, which keeps it open, and it is supported as well as from the basics, that is the evidence, the proof points, and the support docs or the support documents, you would say, right? So that is what the umbrella point theory says. The same thing that we just saw in outlining the message. What else do we see in mail in general? Be clear, be concise. What mistakes do we make? We make spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes. But the good thing is there is a dictionary inbuilt in your system. You need not know all the spellings. You need not know whether any punctuation suits in your statements or not, because it is an inbuilt thing in your system. Just give a right click and it would give you the options for the right spellings, for the right grammar things, for the right punctuations. Yes, avoid unnecessary CC and BCC. It is really irritating, I would use the word irritating, when the mail that you draft, it is meant to be sent to one person, but just so that the other people around you know that you have done something, or you've asked for a feedback, or you are being a part of something, who are not actually necessary in the CC and the BCC, but still you put them just for their information. Make sure, watch, check whether they are actually required on your mail or not. So avoid unnecessary CC and BCC. People also make, they have a habit of mentioning like 10 people in the CC and BCC, so that the entire team knows, so that there are 10 members, probably they are not working on the same project, and they might not be the right people to see that mail, even they are included just because they are a team member. Avoid unnecessary CC and BCC in that case. Then, there are certain templates for frequent mailer responses. Say, for example, you get 100 mails and you're not able to respond to everybody on one-to-one basis. You have to read them. So, in that case, you can simply rule them out in a folder, and you can have simple frequent mailer responses made that you will get back shortly. Or just the way you have mailer templates if you're out of office, the out of office mailers. Similarly, if you're not able to respond, like say for example, I being into recruitment, say for example, I get many applications and I'm not able to get back to every applicant. So in that case, I have a frequent mailer response that if someone applies, he gets a response immediately that I will get back to you shortly. Alright, then in your mailers, avoid short forms, abbreviations, avoid excessive emoticons. You may use emoticons when you're using your personal mails, when you're dealing with the people who are socially involved with you on a personal front. Not at office, not at workplace, not with your customers, clients, your peers, your subordinates, your bosses. No, avoid excessive use of emoticons. Avoid short forms and abbreviations because not everybody understands your short forms, that's one. Second, it doesn't suit the decency of the mail. But the first one is more important. Avoid short forms because people do not understand each and every short form that you might use. Alright, so we were here, we were learning that we should avoid unnecessary CC, BCC, and avoid short forms, abbreviations. Check for spellings, grammar, and punctuations. Being clear and concise is important, and using templates for frequent mail responses that you might have is required. What else? Use active voice instead of passive voice. That is normally preferred, using active voice instead of passive voice. Now, the major issue that we see is whenever we mail attachments, okay, we are sending reports or we are sending any sort of presentations, we attach say 4 documents at the same time or 6 documents at the same time. That's not preferred. Zip them in one and then send for a neat and elegant email. It doesn't give a perfect look, that's number one. It doesn't give the ease for the reader to save it, to have a look at it at once, at one glance. So it's better we zip all the documents if there are many. Reduce the size of attachments if heavy. You might think that okay, it's attached, it would go, but it would take time. If you're running short of time, reduce the size of the attachments if heavy. Now, avoid mailers on personal, unofficial, or fun topics. So, why this point? I have few people in my office, since I'm in the HR, There are many things going outside outside the office premises, and if something goes wrong, people mail. If there is a car demonstration going on outside the office premises, say for example outside the office building premises, people just mail that people can go, all the employees can go down and have a watch in the lunchtime. Is that required? Or people also share jokes, refreshment mails. Is that required? We don't know if that is required, but that is not recommended in the office, in the workplace. So avoid personal mails, avoid unofficial mails, avoid fun topic mails which are not required in the office or in the workplace. Revert to mails as per priority instead of frequent mail checking. So instead of checking your mails every now and then, what exactly happens is just having a habit of that send receive, clicking on the send receive button every now and then to check whether you have got new mails. You are not able to concentrate or focus on the work you're actually doing because of the mails. So instead of checking on every notification that you get in terms of mails, check 10 mails at a time, set the priority. Say for example 10 to 12 in the morning, you have checked all the mails at 10 to 10:30. And then take a pause on the mails. Check the next set of mails at 12 o'clock or maybe 1 o'clock. Do not keep checking mails every now and then unless and until it is an immediate response required mail. Right? So revert to mails as per priority instead of checking your mails every now and then. Now there are certain things that would make your mails more attention marking, and in a very simple language, more attractive. Attractive in terms of seeking the reader's attention to your content. So headings, using headings, lists, indenting, that is making paragraphs, bold facing, underlining the important points, using italics for the words that are important in the mail, margins, tables, typeface. All these things are really important to grab the attention of the reader to those particular points instead of, say for example, I might not have time to read the one-page email that you must have written. But if you have highlighted in terms of headings, or you have mentioned clear, concise points in terms of a list that is required, or you have bold-faced all the topics that you would want me to respond immediately, or if you have provided me some data, then a table or margins, all that is preferred. Now let me tell you what is chunking. Chunking is reducing your size of the paragraphs you make in the email. That is a really important thing to do. You're no more in school where you would be given more marks for writing a bigger essay, where you're given like a limit of 1,000 words. No. You're writing an email, you're not writing an essay. So chunking is reducing the size of your paragraphs that you're writing, making it more concise, making it more to the point, and highlighting the points you want response immediately, not highlighting with red. Red, as I said, is a sign of aggression. It shows a loud note, a shout. Similarly, caps, capital words. It shows a sign of loud note. Avoid those two things. That is called flaming. So chunking is important, and with reduction of size of your mail, headings, lists, tables, margins, underlining, italics with the important points that will make your mail more attention marking, and the reader can easily grasp what is the content of the mail instead of reading the entire story that you would write otherwise. So that's about the mail etiquettes. Now we would come to the phone etiquettes. So if not by emails, how would you engage to some other person? You might engage to some other person by dialing that person, by calling that person. So the basic rule, I would say, if you want a call to be a successful call in terms of a very fruitful, a very descriptive conversation and to the point conversation. If you want a positive response might not be getting a client in the first call itself. Please mind it. It doesn't mean that you will be getting a customer or a client in the first call itself, but having the chance of a second call with the client, that is a positive call. So if you want that, that is a very simple rule. Smile and dial. Okay, many of you must be thinking, who sees if I'm smiling? Let me tell you, a smile, when it makes a difference. When you smile and dial, that comes up in your voice, that comes up in your conversation, that comes up in your thought and hence your talk. So that converts into a power dial and a power call. So what do we understand by telephone etiquettes? Number one, okay, so number one is always have your cell phone on vibrate or silent mode at workplace or meetings. Okay, as we said, even if we are watching a movie, now that's something that's an entertainment thing. That is nothing that would distract you actually, but still we don't like it, right? Even in a movie, a phone ring distracts you. So how can we recommend that while you're having a focused work approach, when you're having a meeting? So always have your cell phones on vibrate or a silent mode. Now, second thing, let me tell you, if you are not preferring a vibrate or a silent mode because you don't get to know if someone is calling you, have a very decent ringtone. You can have a very decent, let me put it this way, have a polyphonic. The ringtones that we used to have when mobile phones started, polyphonic tunes, they are preferred instead of songs. And especially those songs which are loud. And what I see at my workplaces, songs, religious songs, aarti songs. People prefer those kind of songs as ringtones. Please avoid that. Right? Now, what is the second phone etiquette? Avoid frequent checking of phones during work or meetings. If someone is talking to you one-on-one and you're in your phone, if your phone rings and you're on your phone again, just disconnect and again get back to the discussion in a meeting. Or, if possible, do not note at all whether the phone is ringing, whether there is a text message notification. Please avoid frequent checking of phones during work or meetings. What else should we take care of? Make calls during normal business hours. Okay, one thing which I mentioned that during emails, now there are people who draft mails and send it at 1 o'clock in the night, say 4 o'clock in the morning. It is not preferred. Define your business hours, whether it's 10 to 7, whether it's 9 to 6, whether maybe say for example you want to keep it for 9 to 9. That's fine, but define it. Do not make calls after normal business hours, which is considered to be 7 or 7:30 maximum, unless and until you are wishing to talk to somebody at an executive level, at a very senior level, who is not available for the entire day, who is only available pre-business hours or post-business hours. Unless and until then, avoid making calls after normal business hours. Then, what is the best telephone or a call etiquette? Return your calls on the same day. If you've been attending meetings, you've been busy with something, you've been busy in your projects and you've not been able to take calls, no problem. But return the calls on the same day, apologize to start with, and then ask for whatever the call was made for. But return the call on the same day. Never put someone on hold without asking permission, or if you do, for a long time. So You might say, okay, you're a busy person, you are talking to somebody, and then you get another call on the other line. You take that call, you put the other person on hold. No, don't do that. Take a call, say that you're on another call or you're on another phone call. Okay, you would call back later and then get back to the call you were on. Do not put someone on hold without asking, without taking permission. And if you're even taking permission, putting them on hold, do not extend it for more than 2 minutes. Next, do not eat, do not do any other work while you're on the phone. Many people, just to avoid or ignore certain kinds of discussions, they're on the call, they're hearing, but they're working side by side, they're eating side by side. They think that since they're not speaking, they're just saying they think that it is not being identified by the person who is listening. No, it is clearly audible that the person is eating. Also, when you work or type on the computer, it is clearly audible on the phone, so avoid that. So do not do other work, do not talk to other people. If they just drop into your cabin, ask them to keep silent and wait for your call to get over. And after your call is over, attend other phones, attend other people, attend your food, right? Ask the person if he or she has time when you make a call. If you're calling your customer or clients, you first need to do is ask whether he or she has time. Outline the points you wish to make before placing the calls. And this is a pre-call requisite that you need to make. If you are making a call where you are supposed to be really clear and concise, you need to note that down on a piece of paper and then make a call, so that by the time you end the call, you make sure that you have discussed all the points that you had outlined. Then, if your party is not there, if your party means if the person whom you're calling is not there, leave a brief message requesting a telephonic appointment for the next time, or ask for when you should call back again if the person is not available. And if the person answers your call, stick to your outline and thank the person at the end of the call. Just the way we thank and give regards at the end of the mail, thank the person at the end of the call. When we start or when we end, greetings for the day is an important thing to do. First is identify yourself. You should give your name, ask for the caller's name if in case you are receiving a call. Be courteous during the entire call. Be empathetic during the entire call, not aggressive. A polite, smiling tone. And for the outline of whatever takedowns you have to do during the call, if someone is calling you, have a pen and notepad with you to take messages in the call. And as I said, greetings of the day, giving regards is fine, but also wish have a nice day when you are ending the call. End the call gracefully, as I said, with a thank you note and greetings for the rest of the day. So that's about making calls. Now there is one thing that is really important and people struggle doing, that is voicemails. Now, in a voicemail, either you have to form a voicemail so that people can drop in a message when you are not available, or you are supposed to drop a voice message when this person whom you're calling is not available. In that terms, when you're leaving a voice message, first thing you should do is identify yourself. Identify yourself means you should speak up your name and your return number immediately after the beep. Be brief and clear. Mention what, why, next steps of the call. So, what does that mean? I am so-and-so, calling from so-and-so company. I had called for so-and-so purpose. I would like to talk to you. This is my return number. And make sure that you're audible enough for the recording of the voicemail. In the entire conversation, there should be no other emotion except optimism. You should be optimistic and positive in your entire voice message when you're leaving a voice message. All right. Next is when you're recording a voicemail for others to leave a message. Okay. So this has to be something upbeat. Upbeat is something with a positive, strong note that you need to start a voicemail recording. Start with an upbeat greeting, saying a good morning or greetings of the day or hello. So an upbeat greeting, and indicate how the caller can get response from you. So you can just say that at the moment I'm not available, but you can get back to me so and so. You can leave your message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. That's how you indicate the person that he can get a response from you. And then close on a positive note. Again, the same thing, day greetings. Okay, so if I give you an example of drafting a voicemail recording. Hey, this is Richa. You've reached Richa Shah. I'm out of town right now, probably not able to take your calls. You can drop in a message. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Have a nice day. This is a kind of voicemail recording you can give. Now, do not have a cute message. What do you mean by a cute message? You should sound professional. You should not sound sweet. You should not sound cute. And cute and sweet means childish. You should sound an adult. You should sound professional in terms of drafting a voicemail recording. There should be no background music, and plus you should not drop an introductory comment in the mail that I'm Richa Shah, I'm so and so, I'm so and so. No. Your name is enough for the voicemail recording. Okay, so we've now done the telephone etiquettes. Coming to the meeting etiquettes. Now, meeting etiquettes are something you need to prepare before the meeting, some etiquettes that need to be implemented during the meeting, and some after the meeting. Let's quickly have a look what are before the meeting etiquettes. First thing is arrive on time. Okay, that laid back approach or creating an importance by coming late, no. Despite, suppose say you're hosting the meeting, still arrive on time, or probably in that case arrive before time to check whether everything is ready or not. Even if you are the authority figure, even if you are a seniority figure, still arrive on time with a strong set agenda, what is supposed to be discussed. Agenda versus time. How much time versus each agenda? Second, before the meeting starts, suppose you reach on time and the meeting is supposed to start in 5 minutes till everybody is there in the room. Till then, mingle with others till the meeting starts. Introduce if introductions required in any meeting. Introduce historical or senior members with name and position. Initiate handshakes. Always stand while being introduced. Never pull out someone's chair for them. Okay, let's start with the last one. Never pull out someone's chair. If there is a meeting in your own office and you have invited people in your own office, you might say that, okay, it's a customer, it's a client, I need to pull out a chair for that person. Don't do that. You might try to show respect, but that is not recommended. You can show him that please be seated, but do not pull out the chair for that person. Second, when you are being introduced to someone, the introduction goes from the authority figure to the second line person to the third line person. So when you are introducing someone, take the name of the person who is senior and then your own name, or then the name of the person who is a step down, or probably a newcomer, or probably an executive level person. Initiate handshakes, and when you are being introduced, always try to stand. Then we have during the meeting etiquettes. In a meeting, whether you're meeting somewhere outside your office or it is a project meeting inside the office, it's a meeting with the clients or customers, or it's a meeting with your subordinates where you're explaining something to them, always speak up and be interactive. Now, this doesn't mean that you only have to be the speaker. Let others speak so that it becomes interactive rather than a speaker-audience relationship. Let it be an interactive session. Do not save all your questions for the end. Put them in bits and pieces. Raise your questions as and when they come up. Then, understand the unwritten speaking rules. Now, as I said, you should have a set agenda versus time. So that means you should know when to stop a particular point and to start the second point. So it is really very, very impolite to interrupt someone. That is the corporate etiquette, that you should not interrupt the person who is speaking. But the unwritten speaking rule says that you should also know when to direct that person from point 1, from agenda 1 to agenda 2, right? So that you complete the meeting on time, rather than getting it extended for 2 hours, 3 hours, or who knows how long. Then, you may drink a coffee or a tea or water. Avoid eating. Unless and until it is a lunch meeting or a business meal meeting, avoid eating. Next, do not take phone calls, as mentioned earlier also. Do not take phone calls or reply to text during the meetings unless it is dead urgent, right? But if it was dead urgent, you would have done it well in advance. You wouldn't have waited for the meeting. If you know that you are supposed to make a call at 2 o'clock, but then suddenly a meeting comes up which says 1 to 3, then inform the person well in advance. You'll not be making a call at 2, you'll be making a call at 4. So plan in advance about your phone calls, plan in advance about your texts instead of getting interrupted during the meeting. Let's see how you summarize the meeting. Summarize the meeting means when you end the meeting, you should summarize in a short note what you discussed during the meeting, what are the next steps of actions to be taken, what are the actions agreed upon, who has to take what responsibility, what is the next step of action for the customer or for your own self, for your peer, for your boss, along with the timing. Just summarize that and give a thank you note to the entire group or the guests if they are, for their time, for the contribution of their inputs. Always remember, even if you get the most weird of inputs, please welcome those opinions, welcome those inputs, because you never know. The weirdest of inputs might turn out to be fruitful. So always thank every speaker in a meeting for the time as well as the contribution of their inputs and opinions. And how to end the meeting. So it is not necessary after the thank you note, after the actual in-person or physical meeting has ended, you go back to your desk or you go back to your cabin or you go back to your organization, you go back to your company, and then your meeting has still not ended unless and until you drop the minutes of meeting in terms of mail to all the people who are present in the meeting with all those things that have been summarized during the meeting. So minutes of meeting along with what has been agreed upon, the responsibilities, the timing has to be sent to everybody, and that is how a meeting in actual sense ends. Now, as we considered that handshakes are important, so it is really important for us to understand what do we mean by handshakes. Why are handshakes important? And yeah, we might be running short of time, and hence I might not give you 1 minute, as I said, after every module. But I would request that while I'm speaking, you may note down the best takeaways for the slides that you think that were really important and were the best takeaways, and also put up your queries. Now, coming back, knowing a handshake. You should always know when to initiate your handshake. You should always know that you're supposed to stand while you're shaking hands with somebody, looking into the eye of that person. And few people, they think when they're shaking hands, they're supposed to keep mum, they're supposed to keep silent. No. Normally, When someone is introducing by the name, that is when the handshake initiates. At that moment, you are supposed to stand up. You are supposed to look into the eye of the person whom you are being introduced to. Offer greetings when after the name, say hello or good morning or good afternoon. Offer the greetings before and during the handshake while your name is being introduced, and just look straight into the eye. What next? A firm handshake for men and a mild firm handshake for women is recommended. Now, a firm handshake doesn't mean that you have to crush the person's hand. No, a firm handshake is a decent firm handshake which shows interest, which shows agreement, which shows a positive attitude of having met someone. That kind of a firm handshake is recommended for men. A mild firm handshake showing the delicacy of women is required. Till date, it was expected that a half handshake is recommended for women. Let me tell you that no more exists. Do not give a half handshake in terms of women. It clearly indicates disinterest. It clearly indicates disengagement. It clearly indicates that you are not very, very pleased to meet the person you are being introduced to. So a mild, firm handshake for women is recommended. Avoid the half handshakes, giving your hand half in terms of handshake. That is not recommended. Then, if you are having a handshake for more than 2 to 5 seconds, it is going in the wrong direction. Again, it is showing not interest. It is giving a negative impression. So do not prolong it for more than 2 to 5 seconds. And when your right hand is having a handshake, where is your left hand? Make sure that your left hand is not on the hand of the person you're shaking hands with. If it is a preliminary handshake, when you're just on an introductory note, make sure that your left hand or the other hand, apart from your handshake hand, is resting parallel to your body. Or if in case of men, it can be in the pocket, the other hand. Then let's talk about business meals. You might attend business meals in terms of meetings with executives, breakfast meetings, because that's the best time they're available. As I said, working beyond business hours gives a negative impact about your image. But breakfast meetings or dinner meetings are with people who find it difficult to arrange time, manage time in the normal business hours. So when you're attending breakfast meetings or lunch meals or after work cocktails or it's business dinners, there are certain etiquettes associated with each of them. Now here I have mentioned after work cocktail, only one. We will understand what is the reason behind it. Only one means try and have only one drink, not more. Now suppose, say, in the meal you are the host. So if you're hosting a meal, send early invites. Do not impose invitations. This is not a personal meal invite. So if you're calling someone for your wedding, you might impose invitations. Please come, please come, please come. But that's not recommended when you are giving an invitation on a professional front. You have sent an invite. You may send a reminder that the dates have come, or again a reminder for an invite, but do not invite to an extent that it looks like an imposition. Second, request responses as soon as possible. Arrive early at the time of the meal. Arrive early to greet the guests if you are hosting the meal. Before people start coming in, make sure that you have given the cash card to the server in advance so that he doesn't bring in the bill while you are completing the meal. Also, if in case you are not preferring cash cards, you may just tell the server that you would be paying in later after the entire meal is over, and not to drop in midst of the meal or at the end of the meal. Also, during the meal, check comfort of the guests if they are fine with the meal or they are comfortable. But Make sure in order to check their comfort, you do not get up from your seat to check their comfort. You can check their comfort being seated on your seat, having your meal, and then you can check their comfort by asking them. Need not get up and ask their comfort. Apologize to guests if food or service was below their expectation, and this is especially in terms of your clients and customers. You might have hosted a meal in the best place known in the city or the best known food serving restaurant, but still ask whether they liked it. Apologize if it was not up to their expectations. So that is how you host a meal. Now let's see if you are a guest at the meal. Respond promptly to the invitation you get. Give reasons and apologies for negative response. If you're not attending a meal or a business meeting meal, please tell them, apologize for the negative response. And on-time response is the best. 2-3 minutes late is fine. Also, a day or 2 day late is fine, but no later than that is acceptable. Now follow the host in deciding what to order if in case it has not been decided already, and thank the host while you leave. Then we also have to make sure that we do not order something awkward, because the agenda of the meal is to talk business, not to talk food. So avoid trying out new things. Okay, the one is fine. Do not order alcohol if you are supposed to drive after the meal. Against the company policy, you are not going to order. But if you are driving after the meal, have only one. Next, dining etiquette leaves some, not more food on each plate. And split bills evenly if bill is divided. If suppose you are going for a meeting on a one-to-one basis, and if you are supposed to split bills, if the bills are supposed to be divided, then split them evenly and contribute your bill. Now when we talk about table manners, one should remember that you should start only after your host or guest is completely seated, comfortable, and he or she starts eating, and then you start up. Bring food up to your mouth. Don't bring your mouth to the table. Don't bring your face. Don't lean down to the plate to get food inside your mouth. No. Bring the food to your mouth. Observe the eating pace of others and conform to their pace. Don't be very fast. Don't be very slow. Try to manage the pace of the people who are sitting along with you for the meal. Yes, do not have the napkins placed as a bib on your collars. No. That is done for children, that is done for kids. You always lay your napkin across the lap. Many people say that we are not kids, we are not going to spill food, and so we need not lay the napkin across our laps, but that is the corporate etiquette. When you're going for a business meal, lay that napkin on your lap and then start your meal. When finished, put your silverware, the fork and the knife in a cross way. Let them cross inside the plate in a manner that it shows 10 o'clock position. Also, keep mouth closed while chewing the food. Now, people normally do ask this thing that I find it difficult to remember which hand for the fork, which hand for the knife. It's a very simple thing if you forget. I have not included in the slide, but yes, the stronger hand is the right hand. Say, for example, I ask you to slap somebody. Which is the stronger hand? It's the right hand, right? So the knife suits best with your right hand. So from the next time, if you forget which hand your knife should be, it should be your right hand. The delicacy is with your left hand. So the fork with which you eat, the easier job to be done, that is eating, not cutting. So the fork should be in your left hand. So now I think it should be easy for you to remember. All right. So now let's go to sustained perception. Now, all of this that we studied till now was initial perception. Initial perception, as I said, if you change today, it will be visible to people the same day, instantly. So if you change your eating habits, it is instantly visible. If you change your dressing habits, dressing style, if you change your appearance, if you change the way you talk, it is immediately perceived by people. So it is initial perception in terms of corporate etiquettes. Something that changes over time, as I said, punctuality, which is not visible to people instantly on the very same day or in the very same month, that is called sustained perception. Let's see what is that. Attitude. Having a positive attitude about yourself, your work, your company, your team, your customers. I know there might be ups, downs, whether it's your own office, whether it's about salespeople talking to clients and customers. You might not have a breakthrough every time, but having a positive attitude throughout, that is sustained perception required for corporate etiquettes. Have a positive attitude. Even if your boss fires you today, have a positive attitude the next day. It is going to change. Then integrity and trust. Always speak the truth and say only as much you can do. Do not overpromise. Do not overcommit. Okay, so say only as much you can do, and do whatever you say is required as a point of sustained corporate etiquette. Why? It will develop integrity and trust. A client will trust you, your boss will trust you, your peers will trust you that if this person says something, he does it. Otherwise, he doesn't say it. So it is a sustained corporate etiquette that is required. Next sustained perception would be civility. Have sincerity always, regards for the people around you, empathy. Always consider yourself in someone else's place and then react. Respect for diversity. You being from the western region of the country, someone from the eastern region of the country joins your company, or from the northern or the southern region, there will be diversity in terms of the food habits, in terms of the dressing sense, in terms of the language, in terms of many other things. But respect that diversity, mingle with them. That is civility. Define tact and diplomacy. We will see that in the next slide. Self-discipline. Be organized, be punctual with time. That again creates respect as well as trust in you. Next, that I said we would be discussing tact and diplomacy. So what is tact and diplomacy? It is defining your behavior. Defining your behavior in terms of your speech. You might be angry, as I said. You might be anxious, as I said. You might be sad because of something went wrong at home, as I said earlier. So then how do you manage such things? Like say, for example, I didn't do the study. I have been busy with other important tasks. Suppose, say, you were not able to submit a report your client asked for, right? And you just say that I had other important tasks to do. A person might feel offended that there were other important tasks. So does that mean this task wasn't important? So the person who is talking to you might feel offended. There is a way to deal with tact and diplomacy. Instead of saying that you had other important tasks, just say that I didn't do the study and it will be done by so and so day. Now, you can go through on the screen. So the other examples that, for example, you're having a discussion in the meeting and someone gives an opinion. As I said, respect every speaker's opinion. Instead of saying that, okay, this idea wouldn't work, it actually cannot work. You are not being practical, you're not being sensible. Instead of saying that, just say, let me share my perspective on the issue and let's find out more ways of doing it. So, in a way, you are stopping that person's perspective, you're putting it on other perspectives, and in a way, we are finding the solution instead of giving disregard to the opinion of someone else. Similarly, if someone has made mistakes in a document, instead of firing that person, don't you pay attention? This document is full of mistakes. That's how your boss might treat you, or you might be treating your subordinates. So in that case, what is the way of dealing tactfully and diplomatically? You can just say that it is really important to finish this on time. It is to be submitted to the director by the end of the day. I have identified few mistakes. I would really appreciate if you could just check again, proofread again, and I can send it to the director. It's really important. So handling it tactfully and diplomatically is again a corporate etiquette. So you are avoiding something, you are giving a solution to something instead of complaining, and in a decent way. You're not being loud, right? So that was about it. So what did we conclude in the entire session today? We defined corporate etiquette. We defined it by saying that corporate etiquette gives a polished image of you. This polished image of you brings in productive work relationships. Please make sure they are work relationships. We are not here to make personal relationships. It would be productive work relationships. And these productive work relationships would then go on to give you business or career productivity. So corporate etiquettes, it's not just in terms of polishing yourself to make you more presentable. It's not just about dressing well. It's not just about looking good. It's not just about speaking good English. It's not just about speaking well over the phone, having fluency over communication, or controlling your gestures. The end product of learning corporate etiquettes is to get a better business or career performance productivity. So here, I would like to thank you for being a calm audience. I have not been able to hear you at all. So now we can start up with our Q&A session. If you have written the best takeaways, you can just mention them. I would like to know which were the best slides you found, which were the best takeaways you found.